Parshat Vayera concludes dramatically with the story of Akedat Isaac, in which Avraham demonstrates his willingness to sacrifice his son. The Torah doesn't tell us what were the events that led up to the story of the Akeda. This gap is filled both by the Midrash and by the Zohar. The differences between these two accounts, that of the Midrash to that of the Zohar, highlight a fundamental teaching of the Zohar, that God is present in each one of us. According to the Midrash, Avraham made a large celebration for Yitzchak, and after the celebration, Satan approached God and said, Avraham made this big celebration and he didn't give you any part of it. He didn't offer a single sacrifice to you. And God responded that Avraham is so devoted to me, if I asked him, he'd give me his own son. And according to the Midrash, this is what led to the story of the Akeda. But the Zohar tells the story differently. According to the Zohar, Avraham was made the big celebration for Yitzchak, and Satan disguised himself as a pauper. He arrived to the celebration, and nobody paid any attention to him. Nobody responded to any of his needs. So he left from celebration, approached God and said, you call Avram your beloved? He made this big celebration and didn't give you any part of it. He didn't give anything to the poor. The Zohar there doesn't explain why giving attention to this uninvited guest is so significant to your relationship with God. That the Zohar explains in a second paragraph. The Zohar teaches that when you make a celebration, you must give a part to God. What does it mean to give a part to God? The Zohar writes, to bring joy to the miskenim. Miskenim is an Aramaic word. It can be translated as the poor. It can be translated as it's used in modern Hebrew to mean those who are miserable. To give a part to God is to bring joy to those people that are really down. And then the Zohar makes an astonishing statement. The Zohar says that these people, these miskenim, they are the kelim hashvurim of God, the broken vessels of God. Now the concept broken vessels is alluding to one of the central principles of the Kabbalah that believe that the original pristine state of the world is compared to a situation in which vessels are receiving the divine light. And at some point the vessels were not able to contain the light. They broke, they shattered. The light was scattered all around, and the purpose of the world is to rebuild the vessels. Now this sounds very abstract, but here in this paragraph, the Zohar is teaching us what are these vessels, or who are these vessels? The vessels are people. People are created in B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. People have the ability to be filled with the divine light. But when people are broken, the broken people in the world, these are the kelim hashvurim. These are the broken vessels, and our role in life in the world is to help rebuild these vessels, to allow them again to receive the light from above. So here, the Zohar is explaining that to give to God is to find a way to give to those to people who are in need to be rebuilt. Now, one of the major Kabbalists of the 20th century was Rav Ashlag. And this human understanding of the breaking of the vessels was very significant to his thinking. He explained that the breaking of the vessels had to do with that the light should have been shared and scattered and spread around. And when you have too much in one place and too little in another place, this is what leads to the breaking of the vessels. And as a result, he was very intrigued by the ideas of communism, because communism talks about sharing the wealth. And in fact, in 1958, Ben Gurion, Israel's first prime minister, wrote a letter to his student, to the main student of Rav Ashlag, saying that he met Rav Ashlag on a number of occasions. Ben Gurion wanted to talk to him about Kabbalah, but Rav Ashlag would always ask him, when a Jewish state is formed, will it be governed by communist principles? Now, ultimately, Rav Ashlag, when the horrors of Stalin came out, became disillusioned with political communism and believed that some of the ideals that communism represents will be realized not through politics but through religion. And maybe in this context, I'd mention another point which I think Rav Ashlag and his approach differs from classical socialism and communism. So much, I think, of a major mistake in a lot of the discussions about social justice is that so much of spreading the wealth comes back to one word: money. Spreading the money around, without undercutting the significance of money. So much of the true wealth there is to humanity in life, the difference between those who are miskenim, miserable, and those who have found happiness in life, so much of that is not about money. And true social justice, a true belief to spread the wealth among all of the Jewish people, among all of humanity, will look a lot beyond money, but other things that bring the light within our lives, among them the teachings of the Torah. Now, this point that so much stresses the significance of the relationship to the other, to humanity, appears as the reason why Abraham was chosen by God to be the father of the Jewish people, to be a source of blessings to all nations. And in this week's Parsha, the Torah says he was chosen because he will have the ability to teach his children after him to go in the way of God. What is the way of God? Lasot tzedakah u'mishpat. To seek for justice. Now, I think the real unique aspect of Avram wasn't only the search for justice. I think almost everybody's for justice. I think Avram is unique in the answer he gave to the following question: justice for who? Justice, often people want justice for themselves. People want justice for people, for their community, for people like them. Avram is unique in he sought justice for people far away from him. Right after the Torah tells us why Avram was chosen, because of his search for justice, this is demonstrated in Avram going out on a limb to try to save the people of Sodom, calling to God to have merciful justice and spare the people of Sodom. And in a nutshell, this is the point in which Avram differs from the people of Sodom. Because in last week's Parsha, there's actually a very inspirational story about the king of Sodom. After Avram saves many of the people of Sodom from captivity, the king of Sodom tells Avram, all the property that was captured, keep for yourself, but please free the people. And I read that story and I said, wow, I wish we had leaders like that they put people above money and property. And if the king of Sodom is such a people person, so why are they considered to be the epitome of evil? I think the answer is that Sodom, within their own community, might have had a lot of humanity, a lot of compassion. But the borders of humanity ended with the outskirts of their community, and any outsiders who found themselves in Sodom, help them God. Now, at the beginning of this week's Parsha, it tells about Avram is communing with the divine. He's talking with God. And suddenly, he sees a group of travelers in the desert, seemingly some heathens wandering. He stops talking with God in order to offer hospitality to these travelers. The Midrash speaks praisingly of Avram's conduct, saying that this teaches us that hospitality to those who need it is greater even than communing with the divine. I think the Zohar would say that hospitality to those who need it, that's how we commune with the divine. Shabbat Shalom.